Welcome to Business News. I am Femi Johnson Ayodele. The Central Bank of Nigeria says the e-naira, which is set to be launched on October 1st, is a legal tender equal to the value of the naira and must be accepted as a form of payment by all merchants and business outlets. The CBN Director of Payment System Management, Musa Jimo, made this known on Monday. Jimo said anywhere e-naira is presented in Nigeria, it must be accepted. He advised Nigerians to open e-naira wallets which could be downloaded on their phones from October 1st, adding that CBN bears all their abilities. The Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation on Monday said that the total revenue generated from the sales of petroleum products for the period of May 2020 to May 2021 stood at 2.3 trillion naira. Out of this amount, the corporation disclosed premium motor spirits contributed about 99.61% of the total sales with a value of 2.34 trillion naira. A statement by the Group General Manager, Group Public Affairs Division of the corporation, Gabardine Mohammed, said the figures were contained in the May 2021 edition of the NNPC Monthly Financial and Operations Report. According to the statement, the figures translate to a total of 2.24 billion liters of white products sold and distributed by PPMC in the month of May 2021 compared to the 1.63 billion liters in the month of April 2021. Total sales of petroleum products for the period of May 2020 to May 2021 stood at 18.65 billion liters, and PMS accounted for 99.69% of total volume. Vice President Yemi Osinbajo has urged financial market experts to support the federal government's efforts by developing an appropriate housing finance module that will significantly transform the housing sector on a large scale. Osinbajo stated this on Monday when he received on a courtesy visit to the presidential villa a delegation from the Financial Markets Dealer Quotations Group, led by its CEO, Bola Onodele, who came alongside a delegation from the Independent Petroleum Producers Group. Senior Special Assistant to the Vice President on Media and Publicity, Laolu Akonde, disclosed this in a statement. Economic experts posit that the housing deficit in Nigeria is estimated between 18 and 22 million housing units, while the ratio of mortgage finance to GDP in the country is only 0.5%. It is 31% in South Africa and 2% in Ghana and Botswana. The need for the review of Nigerian Extractive Industries Transparency Initiatives Act has been stressed by some civil society organizations in Nigeria. This was disclosed at a workshop on extractive sector data journalism training in Port Harcourt, River State Capital. In his opening remarks, Executive Director of Policy Ala Tijani Akpan said the workshop was centered on building capacity of investigative journalists to tell data-driven stories that can trigger change in the extractive sector. And now the African
sector on the same page with media experts who work in the extractive sector. So when we see data, the media interprets it the same way civil society interprets it, so that we can interpret that data into what I call people speak, to the extent that the market woman understands the data.
This workshop, in a sense, is to connect journalists in Rivers State to what's happening within the extractive sector in Nigeria. What are the current reform issues? What are those stubborn, issues that have actually resisted reform over time? And how can journalists better report on those issues? Especially the issue of beneficial ownership, which is saw in the video, the issue of contract transparency.
And now the Africans saying the Minister for Tourism, Arts and Culture, Dr. Mohammed Hamid Awal, has indicated that the government will this week begin the disbursement of a $55 million grant from the World Bank to boost the tourism industry. This follows agitation by some stakeholders in the hospitality industry over the delay in disbursing the money. This fund was released by the World Bank about 2 months ago to boost the government of Ghana's efforts to revive the tourism sector as the country continues to grapple with the impact of the pandemic. Meanwhile, the president of the Ghana Hotels Association, Dr. Edward Inyamike, lauded the announcement and called for transparency in the disbursements. The Ghana Union of Traders Associations on Monday locked over 40 shops belonging to foreigners in the eastern region of Koforidua, saying it was against the law for foreigners to be engaged in retail trading. This is not the first time that shops belonging to foreigners, especially Nigerians, have been locked due to the same matter. On the international scene now, government borrowing was higher than expected in August as debt interest payment rose due to high inflation. Borrowing, which is the difference between tax income and spending, was £20.5 billion. Official figures showed £5.5 billion lower than in August last year. However, it was still the second highest figure for August since records began. Economists had expected government borrowing to be about £15 billion. Borrowing has been at record levels, with billions being spent by the government on measures such as the founder scheme to support the economy. This high spending, combined with less money coming from the exchequer due to the pandemic and fall in economic output, has pushed government debt up to more than £2.2 trillion, about 97.6% of GDP, a level not seen since the early 1960s. And now on the international scene, government borrowing was higher than expected in August as debt increase payment rose due to high inflation. Borrowing, which is the difference between tax income and spending, was £20.5 billion. Official figures show £5.5 billion lower in August last year. However, it was still the second highest figure for August since records began. Economists had expected government borrowing to be about £15 billion. Borrowing has been at record levels, with billions being spent by the government on measures such as furlough scheme to support the economy. This high spending, combined with less money coming into the exchequer due to the pandemic and fall in economic output, has put government debt up to more than £2.2 trillion, or about 97.6% of GDP, a level not seen since the early 1960s. The interest payments on government debt were £6.3 billion in August. That was £2.9 billion more than in August 2020, but lower than the monthly record of £8.7 billion in June 2021. Asian stocks were mixed on Tuesday as concerns persisted on Chinese property group Evergrande as its impact on the global markets. Japan's Nikkei 225 index closed 2.2% lower, but Hong Kong's index regained earlier losses to end up 0.5%. There are concerns that Evergrande, a major Chinese property developer, is struggling to meet interest payments on more than $300 billion of debts. Regulators have warned it could affect the country's financial system. Investors fear that this could eat big bank exposed to Evergrande and companies like it, causing contagion in global markets. And that's it on Business News.